So a few years ago, I had a big problem. And it was that I had all these things in my mind that I was trying to keep track of. You know, not just work projects, but personal projects, things I was trying to remember, appointments, all this stuff. And you know, and I was forgetting all these things I was trying to remember. You know, John, do you have this problem trying to remember all the things you got going on in your life? No, you're on top of it. All the silver play. You're the exception. But you know what I was trying to think of, I had all the stuff I was trying to remember. You know, how do you get all that out of your head and into a system that you can remember? How you keep track of everything? And I was looking for that system. I don't know if anyone else has got a system where they can keep track of all their stuff, besides Zena, because I know she does, if anyone else does. But so I was trying to figure out how to solve this problem, and I started thinking about this, and I thought, well, what I'm trying to do is much like, it occurred to me what a CEO has to do for the company, because a CEO, he's got to keep track of all the legal stuff and HR, technology and strategy, and all these different disparate categories he's got to follow, or she has to follow. And I thought to myself, I'm going to talk to some CEOs and see how they keep track of all these different things. So my brother-in-law, he's a CEO of a pretty large company, so I went and Mitch is his name, and he's a short guy, good shape, big skier. And we had this talk, and I told him what I was trying to accomplish, because I know he's in control of things despite what my sister says. But we had that talk, and I asked him what he did, and so he had a lot of ideas, a lot of things he did, but it wasn't really anything that I could take and put into a system for me. So I thought, well, I'll talk to the CEO of our company, Rick. So we were down in Key West. We had a function down there. And we were back at the Key West airport. We had a long wait for our flight. If you've ever been to the Key West airport, it's pretty little, 2 gates, and there's a concourse in the middle. It's all plastic chairs and plastic tables. We had a lot of time, so I sat down with Rick, and he's about my size. Always shaves his head, but he's in good shape. And I told him what I wanted to do, and I asked him how does he keep track of it, because I know he's got so many things going on. So he explained to me he uses an Excel spreadsheet to keep track of things. And later he sent me some examples of things with priorities, due dates, and how he tracks things. So I looked at that and I thought, well, Excel spreadsheet, that might be a way. It wasn't everything I was looking for, but it was an idea. I was getting an idea of what I could do. But I kept looking, and I finally found the solution. Would you like to know what that solution is?
Yes, sir.
And it's called Getting Things Done. GTD is the acronym for it. It's an organization, and it's it's a plan how to keep track of everything you have coming into your life. How are you going to keep track of all that in the system? And so this is how it works. So the first thing is you've got all this information coming into you that you've got to keep track or you've got to take action on. So the rule of thumb is anything that you've got to take action on, if you do it in 2 minutes, you just get it done. If you've got an appointment, you're at your dentist, they schedule you for your next cleaning, you put that in your calendar. So anything, appointments go in your calendar. And then for everything else, there's 5 categories, 5 buckets everything else goes into. The GTD gives you some ideas on how to set up your system, and they give you some options. So I looked at the different options. And what I did was I kind of went back to what Rick told me about, set up an Excel spreadsheet. For these 5 buckets, I created a tab for each one of these. So these 5 categories that everything's in your life is going to go into, those 5 things are next action, projects, someday maybe, reference, and waiting on somebody else. The last 2 are you're not going to use too much, but reference would be if you may want to store websites in there. If you've got projects coming up like TaskRabbit, store websites or things you may want to reference someday. Waiting on somebody else, that's where, let's say, you sent a text or an email to somebody saying, I need some help with this, and you don't hear back from them. You don't know why, but nevertheless, you've got to, at some point, follow up with them sometime. So that's waiting on somebody else. The first 3 categories is where you're going to spend most of your time. The next action is things you've got to do. Things you've got to do. As soon as you get some time, you're gonna do these next action items, and it may be maybe you've got to change a hotel reservation somewhere. So it's going to take a few minutes. When you get some time, you're going to make your hotel reservation on your next action list. Projects, the next item is defined as anything that's more than one step. So for me, a recent project, for me, I volunteered to have Thanksgiving for my family at my place. And so there's a lot of steps I've got to take to pull that off, food and cleaning and all that kind of stuff. So that's one of my projects with all the steps for that project. The important thing is when you put something on your project list is whatever the next action is for that project you put on your next action list. And then the third thing is the someday maybe. And this is your catch-all for everything else in your life you might want to do. Maybe you want to go parachuting, maybe you want to go visit China or England. But those are everything else that someday you might want to do. So those are the 5 categories. So GTD is a method for getting all that stuff out of your head and down into a system that's going to organize and keep track of everything for you. I got to tell you, it took me a while to get that set up, that spreadsheet set up. But once I did, it was so much relief. I felt so much better that I got all that stuff out of my head into a system that's going to manage it for me. So you can, Getting Things Done, they have a website. It's simply gettingthingsdone.com. Or what I would recommend is getting the book. That's what I get. It's called Getting Things Done. Or you can do, Zena informed me, she's got the audio. But the idea is, you get all that stuff out of your head, you get into a system that will manage it for you. As the saying goes, you want to stop chasing cows, build a fence, get things out of your head, and get things done.